I almost cried. Like, there's no crying in baseball. And no, I truly am speechless, and it meant so much. That moment was really special to me. We're going to fight all the way to the very end of the season. This team is tenacious. They love representing this city, and I've been able to do it for 17 years. What a tremendous honor so far. 5 more games to go. Stay with us. We'll fight to the very end, so thank you so much. Thank you.
I've said it 1,000 times. Joey Votto is a two-nation treasure. He has not said if he is done. He's not said if he's retired. But if he is going to hang it up, it's been a tremendous 17 seasons, all in a Reds uniform. Will Leitch has written about it, of course, not only Joey Votto, but perhaps Miguel Cabrera, of course, on the farewell tour as well. Will, thanks for being with us. Let's talk about these two legends saying goodbye to the game. What has impressed you most about their careers?
Yeah, it's remarkable. When you watch a baseball player, I mean, we're all I'm not getting older, but I'm reliably informed other people are getting older. And so I remember Miguel Cabrera being the guy on the Marlins that was playing in the World Series. I was like, wow, this guy's got all the talent in the world. And then you blink and it's 2023 and it's been 20 years. And, you think about how much when you watch baseball for all these years, you think about these guys. I've been thinking about Miguel Cabrera for 20 years. Think about Joey Votto for 17 years. Even guys that haven't officially announced anything. Obviously, Adam Wainwright has. He's going to sing and bat at Busch Stadium this weekend. He's a former Silver Slugger, after all. So he'll be able to do that this weekend. But even guys like Zach Greinke, he hasn't said anything official. But, someone like Greinke, that I think he's going to be a future Hall of Famer someday. This could be the last time we see him. Eventually, Rich Hill has to retire at some point. That could be now. And it's certainly, I always think, we're getting all excited about the postseason. We're getting all excited about what happens next. I'm excited about all those things too. But I do like to reflect these players have been a part of our lives for a really long time. This is the last time we're going to see Miguel Cabrera. It maybe the last time we see, it definitely going to be the last time we see Adam Wainwright. Maybe the last time Joey Votto. I always try to remember that for us, we're like, all right, here comes postseason. But a lot of these guys, their whole lives have been baseball. They've given us so much, and this is the last time we'll see them this last week.
Yeah, and while not mathematically eliminated yet, it would be great to see the Reds in the postseason for Votto, but it's not looking like it's going to be that way. Okay, Will, the wild AL West. Why doesn't anybody want to win it?
It is. I have a theory about this. My theory is none of these teams are that great. This is actually my theory. And I know it doesn't say they're not good because they may all make the playoffs. In fact, whoever comes out of that scrum is going to be the number 2 seed and get a bye. The drop-off between winning the division, getting a 2 seed, and not making the playoffs at all is all going to happen in the next week. I just think that, listen, all 3 of these teams have had great moments throughout the year. The Rangers get off to that great start. The Astros have always been kind of lurking, and you always kind of felt that the other teams would eventually fall off and the Astros would get there. The Mariners, it felt like we'd written them off, and then they went on that incredible run. That's the wild thing about this. Trying to predict what's going to happen in the AL West is really kind of crazy, particularly considering all the games they have together. Obviously, the Mariners have 7 games against both the Astros and the Rangers. Listen, we're talking about the Mariners being worried, but we're talking about the Astros losing those games at home. All you gotta do is get hot in 1 week, and they could get the number 2 seed. Or they could not get hot and miss the playoffs entirely. That's so rare to see. So it's hard to look at them and be like, "Well, the Astros are in trouble." Yeah, but a week and a half ago, it felt like they had it. The Rangers are in trouble, but then and look, you talked about their bullpen earlier. Their bullpen looks rough. It looks like it's good. I look at all 3 of these teams. Whoever makes it in the playoffs, you can see flaws in them, but it doesn't matter because all it takes is to get hot for 1 week, just like in the playoffs. If you get hot for 1 week there, next thing you know, you're the Phillies and you're in the World Series, even though you barely got in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you spoke of the Phillies, and they have locked up that top spot, at least it looks that way, in the National League wild card race. But in this situation, Will, you better know who the tiebreakers are because it's still crazy as far as the other spots are concerned.
Yeah, that was actually a reason to almost watch the Padres for a while before they lost over the weekend because they actually have the tiebreaker over some of these teams. Yeah, I think it's certainly, listen, the Phillies look in good position. The Diamondbacks theoretically look in good position, but they've got the Astros, and who knows what the Astros are going to do for the next 3 days there. That's the AL West is so crazy it's getting into the NL wildcard race. That's how much it's causing chaos there. It is interesting though, in a lot of levels, the Marlins are really interesting. They're on the road this week, but they've got some winnable games. They've a team that's get hot. Again, like with the AL West, none of these teams look particularly flawless. The worry for me, I'm very fascinated to see what happens with the Cubs. They are, on one hand, you look at their schedule and you see, wow, at the Braves and at the Brewers, that's the number 1 and number 3 seed in the NFL, in the NL. That's going to be tough. But who knows how much those teams are going to be. The Braves are probably going to clinch. I think should be able to clinch in the first couple of days here, the number 1 seed. The Brewers are clearly going to be resting. They're locked into number 3. They actually might not want to play the Cubs. So that could move up the Cubs out of that 6th seed. It's fascinating to see. The Cubs schedule looks tough, but isn't really. And actually, they took care of what they had to do against the Rockies. I'm very curious to see. The Cubs, on one hand, don't look like a spectacular team. On the other hand, the Cubs, they've risen kind of in this wild card race because they're not bad at anything. They're a really good defensive team. They have a solid lineup. The rotations had some ins and outs, but they've done enough. And this year in the wild card, that's actually all you need to do is just kind of do enough to get in.
Yeah, the Cubs did what they needed to do against the Rockies. A rough sports weekend in Colorado. Yeah. The Rockies hit 99 losses. The Broncos get blown out and the Buffs lose. But I'm not bitter at all. It's not a problem at all. All right, the Baltimore Orioles could very well win 100 games this season. Are they enough as far as that AL is concerned? I mean, they've been impressive the entire year. They've led the AL East the entire time. But what do you make of this club?
Yeah, I wrote a piece about the Orioles a few weeks ago. Did you realize that the Orioles never won 100 games with Cal Ripken? That kind of blew my mind that the Orioles had never won 100 games with Cal Ripken on the team. This is a whole new era of what the Orioles have been doing. When I wrote the piece, it was going into the weekend before the Rays lost and the Orioles won on Sunday. The Orioles could wrap this up by Wednesday. The Orioles are in a very, very good position to not just win the AL East, but to be the number 1 seed in the AL. And if something happens with the Braves, to potentially, is it possible we talk about the Orioles having home field advantage in the World Series? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But certainly that's what they're looking at right now. Everything has fell right to them. And listen, they've had some worries. Their trade deadline was not particularly spectacular. The Rays obviously have lost some players and are in a different position now. But, I talked about the AL West earlier. The AL looks incredibly wide open. And it really, if you're an Orioles fan, it's actually setting up really great for you because the AL West looks a little bit wobbly. I don't think a lot of teams are terrified by the Twins, who I think actually are a little better than we could have forgotten about the Twins. I think they're a little better than they're given credit for, been playing better lately. But the Orioles, kind of look to me like the favorite in the American League as it is the number 1 seed. That's hard to kind of wrap your mind around. But what it really starting to look like when they clinch the AL East, and it looks like they're going to, they may be facing the Rays in the ALDS if the Rays are able to get to that series. That's a fascinating thing. Those actually look like the 2 best teams in the AL to me right now. But certainly the Orioles, for all, not just 100 wins, they look like the Orioles, the Baltimore Orioles look like the favorites in the American League right now. It's kind of a hard thing to wrap your mind around.
And I love that because they obviously have a tremendous farm system. Kudos to Mike Elias and Brandon Hyde for what they've been able to do with the Orioles, perhaps a little bit ahead of schedule.
They'll be better next year.
Them to be ahead of schedule, and they're going to be better next year. So it's good for them, and they've earned every bit of that if they continue to hang on and win that AL East. Last question for you, Will. Luis Arraez. It doesn't look like the Marlins are going to make the postseason, and we were talking about it early on that he could finish the year above 400. But is he going to finish the year above 350?
Yeah, I mean, but listen, 400 would have been insane, not just because, wow, it's 400 since Ted Williams, but also nobody hits for high averages anymore. Like, remember, Arraez won the batting title last year at 316. So the idea that he's got a chance to go over 350, he'd be the first player to go over 350 since Josh Hamilton, in a non-2020 season, since Josh Hamilton in 2010. And that was when people were hitting for average a lot more than they are now. Really, you could make an argument that hitting 350 now is pretty close to hitting above 400 in 1941. I know the numbers won't actually say that, but compared to the league, nobody really hits for high averages right now. And for the record, I know that the Marlins are a game back. I still listen, the Cubs, if the Braves and Brewers try to get things together, they could make things hard for the Cubs this week. It's really up in the air to see what happens. The Marlins are very well positioned to benefit if that happens. And certainly watching Arraez, I don't want anyone to be like, wow, he didn't get 400. I guess it's a disappointment. 350 is incredible in this day and age. So if he's able to pull that, that's something I'm definitely looking out for in the last week.
Yeah, if Chris Mad Dog Russo was doing this interview and you said that Luis Arraez's 350 was about the same as Ted Williams' 400, he would blow you up. I am not going to do that.
He'd be wrong. He'd be wrong.
I am not going to do that. I appreciate you taking the time, giving us some insight on the final storylines of this week. We appreciate it so much. Thanks for being here.
Of course, enjoy the final week. I can't wait.